The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of salt. So get ready, nerds, because we're talking Mythic Quest Season 2. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Salty Nerd Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the new season of Mythic Quest on the Apple TV channel.
We're going to be talking about half the new season.
Why do you always have to correct me? Half the new season.
Because that's what I do, Alex. That's my only reason for existing.
It's my... what does Sigourney Weaver say?
My density? I mean destiny?
It's the one job I have on this stupid ship.
I'm here every day.
I don't know how you do it sometimes.
We're going to talk about the new season of Mythic Quest, along with 2 extra episodes that they dropped over the course of the break during quarantine. And I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic panel of nerds. Matt Vader, what's up, dude? Bearded barbarian.
Yeah, my beard's growing.
It's coming in good, man.
It's coming.
It's got the curl now. You got
It's still in a weird little awkward phase, but another month it'll be okay.
I'm digging it.
Yeah.
Also, the ambassador of estrogen, Jude.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And last but not least, producer of the show, Matthew Kadish.
And I want to welcome Alex back after his long hiatus. And thank God I don't have to do hosting duties while he's around.
Yeah, we're thanking God as well.
How's the new baby, Alex?
He's doing very well. Very well. Fat, happy, healthy.
Aww.
It's all good.
Spock.
Odenkirk.
I was very upset that I couldn't officially meet him.
You will. You know, you got to get that first couple weeks out of the way. Make sure nobody gets him sick.
You can bring him around when he's like 4.
You sure about that?
That'll be fine.
All right. Anyway,
They're just little poop machines until then, so it's okay.
Yum.
Mythic Quest Season 2. Let's get into it. What we normally do for these TV show reviews is Kadish is going to give us a quick synopsis of the episode. We'll talk about our favorite moments, what we liked about it, where the story's going, and we'll interrupt him as we see fit.
Should we first?
We're doing that with 7 episodes.
It'll go quick.
We're going to be here for like 8 hours.
They're only 20 minutes long.
Should we first do a quick synopsis of season 1 because our season 1 review is a bit of a mess.
It's just a bit. It was a long time ago. It was before we had official video. We reviewed.
We didn't really have format.
Yeah, we had no format. We were just kind of talking.
Yeah, we were doing it in your living room with your crummy $30 Amazon mics.
Why do you have to insult him?
That's what it is.
It's not insulting. It's nostalgic.
I have those mics on my shelf.
Oh.
Did you
I did.
Gold plate them or
I
something?
did. Anyway, so season 1, I think we all generally really enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
For
We
sure.
were very surprised at how good it was.
In fact, Kadish and I rewatched the whole season, the whole first season.
In preparation?
In preparation,
Nice.
because I didn't want to forget key things, and I forgot how enjoyable this show is. It's so smartly written.
Yeah, and it was one of those shows where when we watched the first season, Apple did something really smart where they released the entire first season of Mythic Quest all at once so you could binge it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it went really quick. They were only 24-minute episodes, typical sitcom length. But I remember watching the first episode and being like, I'm really not into this. But then the more I got into the characters as I watched along, the funnier the show got.
Yeah.
And so now that I know the characters, when we went back and rewatched it, it was hilarious.
So good.
Yeah.
It was really funny. And so now Apple's releasing the episodes week to week for season 2. So we're only reviewing the first 5 episodes of season 2 in this podcast. So, but I've been really enjoying this season so far, so I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I didn't revisit the first season, but I do remember there's a lot of moments about it that I kind of stuck with me. And I think it's funny that Apple TV is doing you get the first one for free, but then you gotta pay for the rest of the season on season 2.
And I think that they handle social commentary so well and so smart and so real.
Balanced.
Yeah, it's so balanced because you get the social justice warriors and then you get everyone's reaction and it's so real.
Yes.
The eye rolls.
Yeah, it's really great. And that's the one thing that we, as a podcast, we generally kind of point things out when a TV show goes over the top with the SJW nonsense and it kind of just gets preachy, where it's
and unrealistic.
Like you could bring these points to the foreground without being annoying about it. This show is a great example of doing that.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of characters and a lot of elements to this show that's very like Silicon Valley, California social justice. But then you have the other side of that argument that gets presented equally.
And like so much diversity too. Like people from 20s to how old is CW? Like 1,000?
He's like in his 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's somebody from every generation commenting on the other people in this show, and it's just so smartly done.
Yeah, the show doesn't discriminate. What it does is it makes fun of everything equally, which is what makes it brilliant. And it's the guys behind It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia who do this. It's a show that's produced by Ubisoft, which is one of the biggest video game companies in the world. And for the people out there who haven't watched Mythic Quest, it's basically a kind of behind the scenes look at a video game company that runs the biggest MMO on the planet. So technically like Blizzard's World of Warcraft type thing, but it's called Mythic Quest. And we get to see like the creative director and the CEO and the head programmer and basically like their day-to-day interactions with each other.
The egos.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The main Ian, he's freaking hilarious, dude. He's so funny to watch.
And it's funny because like, his name's Ian.
Yeah.
But because his dad's name was also Ian and he didn't have a good relationship with his dad, he tells everyone to call him Ian. And that was something that until they explained that, it always got on my nerves because like, it's not pronounced that way.
Oh, the person who can't pronounce words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's annoyed. All right, so let's take it away. We have 2 short episodes that are kind of like attached to season 1.
Yep.
So Kadish, go ahead and take us through. What's that first one about?
All right, so we had 2 bonus season 1 episodes because it was such a long time in between when the first season came out and the second season. They kind of bridged that gap with like these kind of bonus episodes. So the first episode is the episode called Quarantine. And basically with the world in the middle of a pandemic, Ian and the team get together via a Zoom call. And David plays Brad in Street Fighter for a wager for money for charity. And Poppy feels very lonely as she's trying to fix the expansion because basically, the setup at the end of season 1 was that they're going to do this
Blood Ocean
expansion.
Blood Ocean expansion, which is about a virus. And once the actual pandemic hit, they had to like cancel that and shift to something new. So Poppy is spending all of her time trying to strip all the Blood Ocean
She ends up coming up with a cure for it.
Yeah.
This episode was actually, it went down a dark road that I was really surprised because this is generally a comedy, even though it does touch on like social issues and stuff like that. But like what happens is throughout the quarantine, which is taking place during the COVID pandemic that we all kind of lived through the last year and a half or so, they all are separating quarantine in their own home and they have to join together with these Zoom calls. And everybody seems to be dealing with it in their own different ways. There's some who are just keeping themselves occupied and busy. There's people who are just thriving in it. And they're like, I'm okay with this. Like CW is like, I'm cool. I'm over here hanging out.
He
can't figure out how to use the computer. He doesn't know how to do a Zoom call.
So spot on.
Oh my God.
If you've done any Zoom calls
with older
throughout
people,
quarantine, like the first 15 minutes is spent like teaching someone how to do Zoom. It's hilarious. It's so smart.
And who's the executive producer with the mustache? What was his name?
David.
David seems to be dealing with it fine. But then we have Ian, who's like, he's ultra rich and he's off doing his like little, I'm in my zone.
He's on his compound.
Yeah, he's on his compound,
his
just
hot tub,
living by himself. Yeah, it's a flex to have the shirt off for the company. So
and he's basically doing the thing that all of the celebrities did during quarantine, where they were just like,
I'm on vacation
in their mansions, singing songs to uplift the people.
He keeps making inspirational videos for his employees, sending them out via email,
and everybody's like, these are terrible.
The HR lady is like, you have to put a shirt on and not make it like
mandatory
viewing.
There's so many clever moments, but the one that really struck me is Poppy. Poppy is by herself. She has no family. She's in her
not
apartment.
showering or
she's not taking care of herself, and she drops into like a pretty dark depression.
Yeah.
And the show really puts a spotlight on the darker side of this quarantine that apparently the media and nobody else wants to really talk about. It's like,
I disagree.
You disagree? Okay.
I've been a longtime viewer of Grey's Anatomy, and this season, every single episode is in that realm of like dark and depressing, and this is what the world is going through. And I had to quit watching it because it was no longer entertainment. I'm not watching a show for entertainment anymore. I'm just watching this take on society and these terrible things that are going on, and it made me feel bad to watch it, and I had to quit. This show put a spotlight on it and still kept it entertaining.
Yeah.
And I can't praise it enough for being able to capture what was going on in the world and still making it something for people to watch that was entertaining and charismatic.
Well, there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. The cool thing about this show is that there's this through line of the relationship between Ian and Poppy, which kind of carries the series. And occasionally you get these serious moments between the two of them that are genuine. They're not always heartfelt, but most of the time they are. And so Poppy, once she finished coding for the expansion and she didn't have anything to do, she got really lonely and depressed. And Ian, who was basically self-quarantined in his compound, he was afraid to leave his compound because he didn't want to get infected. He actually leaves his compound, ventures out to visit Poppy just to give her a hug, let her know she's going to be okay and that she's stinky.
Take a shower.
Yeah. And basically he pulls Poppy out of that dark place. And it was a very genuine, it's very out of character for Ian, who's very kind of self-centered and egotistical.
He's a very shrewd dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has these,
always, his brain's working all the time.
Yeah, but he has these moments where like he shows that he has genuine affection for other people. And that's something in the Pootie Shoes episode where, you know, Pootie Shoes is his kid and he meets him at a diner. And we kind of get an insight into, you know, how he looks at interpersonal relationships where.
And he's so lost in dealing with his son.
Yeah. And I think he's lost most of the time, but for whatever reason, like he always kind of circles back around to Poppy and has like a genuine connection with her, which is kind of something that neither of them know how to deal with. But it was really highlighted in this episode where he kind of pulls her back from the edge, and basically kind of like saves her life.
Yeah,
I think it was an incredibly important message to have.
100%. And I love how this show knows exactly who each character is, even if that character doesn't know who they are.
Yeah, and I also loved how so like a kind of subplot in this episode was David.
The Street Fighter thing.
Yeah.
This is so much fun.
David wanted to donate some money to charity, and Brad, who's their head of monetization, the greedy guy, you know, he was refusing it because he's like, I don't want to give money away. I want to get something for my money.
I don't give money away just the way I got to get something.
He's like,
back.
that's literally what charity is.
And so basically, Brad challenges David to some Street Fighter matches in order to get the money. And so every time David loses, he keeps upping the ante. And then David
cut an eyebrow off or an eyelashes or something.
Yeah. So they make a bet. So like if David wins, Brad has to pony up the money for charity. But if Brad wins, David has to shave off one of his eyebrows. And then like he has to shave off
his eyebrows and eyelashes. And then
and then the final one is
he's like, I want your essence. You got to shave off your mustache. It was so funny.
And then David does this thing where he pulls out like this super fancy controller because he's like, growing up when my parents were fighting, I just play Street Fighter all day long. and so Brad was like worried that he was like rope-a-doped.
Yeah.
Rope-a-doped?
Yeah, rope-a-doped.
I thought that was what's it called when you're a pool shark, right? A pool shark when you're.
It's a boxing reference where you act like
rope-a-doped.
You act like you're a loser, and then like you tire out the other opponent, and then you fight them back. And so, you know, Brad was like, "Oh no, I've been hoodwinked, swindled."
Yeah.
And then like at the end, it turns out that Brad won anyway.
That's another thing that this, especially in this season, is the subversion of expectations. Go ahead.
We also find out that he already donated the money.
Yeah. He was like,
I
just wanted to mess with David.
Get David to do things.
No, he wanted something in return for it. And that's what he got by torturing David.
It's a great moment.
I thought this episode was brilliant.
It was really good.
I really do. The way that it was just, the whole thing was just nothing but Skype calls after one another, you know, and it's just like one would end, another one would start up, you know, we keep the story going. And it was very poignant because it was just how everybody communicates now.
And with Rachel and Dana, the two video game testers, so, you know, they're being observed by Lou, who's their boss. And they do this thing where like they kind of play with the Zoom call format where they'll like put something on the edge of the frame and it'll go into like the other person's frame.
They they have a bag of chips and they're like, "Hey, can I have a chip?" Sure. And she like tilts the bag of chips, and the other girl on the other Zoom
reaches
call
through the
reaches
screen.
in. They're like, "Ha ha, we're so clever."
Yeah. And
So Lou is like, "Please."
Yeah. Lou keeps escalating it to the point where at the end of the episode, everyone gets on the call and
CW is the best.
Yeah. And then they do this big elaborate kind of like Zoom
Like domino effect.
What's the name of the
thing?
The not Mandela machine. What is it called? Where they have like it's a progression of events that all trigger one another.
Butterfly effect?
No. It doesn't matter. There's a name for it, but
Okay.
you guys are describing it correctly.
Yeah.
It's great.
I can't remember the name though.
Yeah. But the end of the episode was just this big, long, elaborate kind of mousetrap type thing where they go from like frame to frame. And it was really fun. It was a cool way to end the episode.
Like I said, light at the end of the tunnel. Even though the show or this episode really touched on a really dark element of the quarantine life and COVID and all that stuff, at the end of the episode, it left you feeling uplifted, which I think is what you were describing, kind of missing from Grey's Anatomy, where it's just every episode
100%.
Was just dark. So it was really good. I
think they kind of keep that going through the whole series.
Yeah.
Where they touch on some things, but keep it humorous.
Yeah. It's a strong suit for this show.
Yeah.
All right, Kadish, what happens in the next episode?
All right. So the next bonus episode of season 1 is
Everlight.
Yeah, it's Jude's favorite. It's called Everlight.
The LARPing episode. Of course it's my favorite.
So awesome.
So basically the Mythic Quest team returns to the office after quarantine. And every year they have their annual Everlight party, which is like the office, like the big holiday in the game. And everyone gets to dress up in cosplay, and they get to do some live action role playing. And but this year there's a twist where basically Brad becomes like the arch nemesis, that has to be defeated. And at stake is the future of Everlight. So if Brad wins, Everlight as a holiday is banned from the office. And so like it becomes a high stakes battle.
This is the first time that Poppy has been allowed to host with IN, because she is now the co-creative director. So now it's not just a king like lording over all of the people. Now the queen is there too. And she thinks that she gets to like fight in the battle. And he's like, no, you're the queen. You're not allowed to fight.
Nobody wants to see their boss win.
Yeah.
It's all about the underdog. And I really like that element of the story in this episode where they got to kind of like, you kind of see what a boss would look down and see the people that they work with or work for them, like how they manipulate things to make them feel good. And like, oh, if we do this will really amp up the team, get everybody excited. It's all just about that work relationship with boss employee or whatever. It was really fun. And I like the opening scene where they're in the elevator. I think it's David and his Joe. And you don't know what to expect, but they're dressed in some pretty corny cosplay stuff. And then when the door opens and the entire gaming facility that they've been working in for the past season is like completely done up. There's like a dirt floor. There's leaves growing out of everything.
Trees,
it looked amazing. I'm like, I want to go there.
It looked like a forest.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You know, this episode reminds me a lot of the Community episodes where they would do like their paintball or the floor is lava type episodes where basically they take these like very simple games and turn them into like a big epic type thing. So like if you're a fan of the show Community and you like those episodes, this was like Mythic Quest version of that. It was really cool. Like at the end, it becomes like a full out fantasy adventure.
Oh, that was so surprising.
The little interludes when they would go from real world to
like animation,
the fantasy world.
Yeah, like
awesome.
what people are like, this is what it is in my head.
Yeah.
Like, this is my fantasy.
Yeah. Did you guys know? So this episode starts off with an animation that gives like the backstory of what Everlight is, and it was narrated by Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah,
I thought I recognized his voice. I thought it was CW, just like doing like a legit narration.
I think we both thought that at first, and then Kadish looked it up.
It was actually Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
It was Anthony Hopkins.
I thought
I didn't even question that.
Cool,
Anthony Hopkins.
See, I thought I'm like, that sounds just like Anthony Hopkins, but I'm like, there's no way they got him to do this TV show.
And the funny thing is like CW, who's probably my all-time favorite character in the show because that's my future.
The nerdy writer. He's been trying to write this book since 1982.
I know the struggle, but so CW because he's old and susceptible to the virus. This entire season, they just have him Skyping in to do his
CW is only appearing on an iPad the whole season. So far.
And it sells it though. It's pretty funny the whole time. Yeah, we were.
They like forget about him because the iPad is just like in a chair,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, CW," and then they turn the chair around,
and he's on the screen. Like, what's going on? This episode really surprised me at how much the production value bumped up because I was watching it, and it's all LARPing stuff. It's all kind of goofy, styrofoam swords and stuff. And then that moment when Poppy and Ian have to work together to defeat Brad for what's lying in the balance is the event itself. Like if we lose to him, we're never going to be able to do this again.
So basically what happens is they're short one person to play this LARPing game. And so they get Brad, and Brad has never dressed up for this. He only does anything like if I'm not going to get something out of it, then I don't do it.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Brad, please, come on. It's for the company. Come on, team spirit." And he's like, "All right, I'll play this game, but if I win, no more Everlight from now on." And they're like, "Oh shit."
Those are the stakes.
Yeah. So they let him do it, thinking that there's no way he's going to win, but then he wins. Yeah, so now he has to play against the king and queen.
He comes out in full garb and he's got his styrofoam sword and he's like, "I majored in fencing in college," or whatever. And everybody's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. And basically Brad wins the tournament, which means he wins the bet. And so the only loophole they have to keep him from cashing in on his bet is for Ian and Poppy to fight him and win. And so like the ending of this episode, like it goes into like their imaginations where like they're actually a king and a queen, and like and Brad turns into like an evil deity. He's like, "I am the darkness."
Yeah. He grows horns, looks badass. Ian's got this awesome freaking armor with his sword and a shield. Like they went full production. Like this is a fantasy movie.
And throughout the entire episode, Poppy's like throwing like,
oh my gosh,
just like fireball.
She's like throwing this piece of fruit.
She's been throwing tennis balls at people and going fireball.
What I love about it too, and this is another one of those.
And at the end, it pays off.
Yeah, it does pay off really well.
A fireball.
There's a really nice through line with this one as far as like the social commentary with like men versus women and stuff like that. It's funny because Poppy's like, "I could take you if I wanted to," and Ian's like, "You're a weak woman. Okay, I am better at everything physically than you are." And she keeps trying to throw these tennis balls. He just catches it like a freaking ninja and throws it back at her, and she goes falling over. It's so hilarious, and that's like it happens multiple times. And then the big payoff at the end of the episode is she actually in the like imagination world throws a fireball at Brad, who is like at that time a demon, and defeats him. And it was like
saving Everlight.
Yeah, saving Everlight, winning the day.
And Joe, the assistant girl,
she's a sociopath.
She's just a psycho.
She's an executioner.
Yeah.
She's crazy.
I love her.
I love her.
The whole series, she's a nutcase.
Yeah,
she's one of the better ones.
Well, the funny thing about her is like, so in the entire first season, she's David's assistant, but like she keeps being the assistant to Ian and other people other than David, and he keeps saying like "You're my assistant, you do what I want you to," and she just doesn't.
He can't find her for a day. And it turns out she was like in the production booth with Ian, helping him with something, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "I'm helping Ian."
She's so cutthroat when it comes to like the corporate ladder.
To power.
Oh, she's just crazy.
She's the chick from Norseman. It's like, "Oh, a Jarl." Same character.
Yes.
You all right there? I look like I confused you.
I didn't like that.
You like that reference?
No, I don't see that.
It's all about power, man. It's okay, buddy. I triggered Vader. I mentioned his favorite show. All right. So that's that episode. They defeat Brad, the evil darkness. They win Everlight, and they move on. And it was a nice team building exercise. We had a lot of fun, a lot of clever moments, and we got to know a lot about Brad too.
And it really shows what Poppy and Ian can accomplish when they work together.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Vader, I know that when we talk about shows, a lot of the times you have a hard time with it, and you're not very invested in it.
I have a hard time with it.
Yeah, like what was the last show that we watched?
The Nevers.
Oh, The Nevers, Shadow and Bone. You're just like you don't want to talk about them. But are you like invested in this? Do you like it? Do you look forward to it?
I don't know.
Do you like this show?
I do like this show.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
I look at it from the gamer's side, the gamer's perspective.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I used to be a big Blizzard fanboy, and I don't play World of Warcraft anymore and stuff. So I think I was a little more into season 1 at the time because I was still playing back then. But I've retired my character since then, and I'm out. I'm out of the
Did your
World of
character
Warcraft.
get a fireball?
No. But No, I do enjoy this show.
Okay.
I do. It's very good social commentary. It's not over the top as far as the wokeness and stuff. I mean, it's there and everything, but it's like I said, it's balanced. I appreciate that. I have a hard time with a lot of TV nowadays because I just am not interested in their stupid bullshit Hollywood messages. But this show seems to have a balance, like we said, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right on.
And I like the nerd aspects of this show. There's a lot of nerd stuff in this show.
Yeah.
And I like it. It's fun.
Right on.
This is a company I would probably kind of enjoy working for.
Yeah, I feel like this show comments on like social issues and who people are now, and it does it so well, but it does it without an agenda. And so often we see shows that are just like pushing an agenda.
Well, they like to tell you who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah.
And in this show,
And
it's
that
very
just,
much
it just
like
becomes exhausting.
Yeah.
But with this show, you get to see it and experience it from each of their points of view without them having an agenda. It's just about the entertainment and the comedy of it.
All right, Katie.
I'm really enjoying the dynamic this season of Ian and Poppy.
That they hate each other.
Well,
But they love each other.
Yeah.
well,
The
she's
sex dream episode is
we have.
freaking
We,
hilarious.
Oh my God. Let's get to it. Let's get to it.
Let's get into it. Katie, what
the-
happens after this episode?
The first episode of season 2 is called Titan's Rift. And basically, Ian and Poppy are trying to work on the next expansion for Mythic Quest. Ian goes on sabbatical in order to get his mind right and leaving Poppy alone to come up with a new title for the expansion. And Dana and Rachel take their relationship to another level.
This was, I love when Ian was like, you know what, we're not going to figure this out today, so I'm just going to go ahead and get out of here, and you let me know when you come up with. And Poppy's like, what are you talking about? You can't just leave. We're in the middle of it. He's like, we're good. Don't worry about it. But there is something in this season that I was kind of like, I was getting a little bit exhausted with, and this is the start of it. It's the relationship between the two testers. It felt a bit forced and heavy-handed.
I did not expect for them to actually get in a relationship. I thought it was always going to be like unrequited love for the annoying one. I forget her name.
Rachel.
Rachel.
Yeah.
I thought that she was just going to be like obsessed with Dana forever. And then when it turns out that Dana likes her back, I was really surprised.
Yeah, it felt like they kind of leaned on that aspect of the story a lot this season, like almost too much. Like I could have been okay with like one or two like side plots to it, but this was like a main through line for this season.
Well, you never got the impression that Dana was into Rachel at all for season 1. It was always just like Rachel obsessing over Dana every single episode for all of season 1.
Yeah.
And I just never got the impression that
Dana reciprocated those feelings. Yeah.
I did like how they kept pulling Carol from HR into their,
my
their
God.
stupid
I love
relationship.
Carol.
She's amazing.
I love all of the side characters. Carol, Sue, what was that? Tall Paul.
Tall Paul.
I love all of the side characters, and they're so well developed along with all of our major main characters.
Yeah. And it's so funny to see the HR point of view where they're like, I don't want to deal with your nonsense. Like, just shut up.
Yeah, they treat her like a therapist.
Yes. Like David's talking about his parents. He's like in her office laying on her couch and he's like, well, you know, when I was growing up, my mom and dad. She's like, get out of my office.
What are you doing here? It's amazing.
Another big development in this episode is that Jo has left being David's assistant and she is now Brad's assistant full time. And Brad is like basically giving her the Gordon Gekko kind of like breakdown where it's like, you know, someday you will try to kill me.
Yeah.
And I will be forced to either kill you in return or you will become better than me and vanquish me.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't wait. And he's like, me neither. They're just both so cutthroat.
It was very much like a Sith Lord. Like there can only be two, right? The master and the apprentice, and the apprentice is going to kill the master. It was a fun little commentary, and their relationship was a lot of fun to watch in this season. Just because of eventually in the next couple episodes, I think we'll find out what his actual personality is like. And when Jo, is it Jo?
Yeah.
Jo finds out, she just is like, you're dead. You're dead to me. So it'll be pretty funny to talk about that episode. I don't remember much else that happened in this one.
I feel
It was the sex dreams.
Oh, this was the sex dreams
This was
episode?
the sex dream episode.
Oh, okay. That was freaking hilarious. Because Poppy, so
she's having like stress sex dreams about
Ian.
Ian.
Yeah, well, like before Ian leaves for his sabbatical, he's like, why don't you go out, get laid, and like relax. And as soon as he leaves, she's like, get laid. And then it cuts to her apartment, and you hear her having sex. And then it shows that she was having sex with Ian. And you're just like, whoa, what happened? Then she wakes up and you're like, oh, it's a dream.
But before she wakes up, Ian in every single one of these dreams tells her how bad she is at sex.
Because she like lays down and the camera's just focused on her.
She's like, that was nice.
Oh, that
He's
was
like,
amazing.
actually, that was terrible.
And she's like, that was pretty bad. And it's Ian and you're like, what is going on? And then she wakes up and she just starts screaming.
Yeah, and then she goes to the tester girls and she asks them about this. And Dana kind of explains that she's had sex dreams about Ian as well.
Turns out everyone's having sex dreams about Ian.
And basically
David too.
Yeah, she explains that it's about power because like you're always dreaming about like, you know, like getting power from the powerful.
Yeah.
And it turns out like David has had sex dreams about Ian and even Ian has sex dreams about
He's
Ian.
like, oh yeah, everybody has sex dreams about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the episode ends with like him having sex with
himself.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, that was amazing. And they're both like, yeah, it was.
Like his ego is just like so out of control.
So ridiculous.
That was a standout performance.
All right, so episode 2 of season 2 is called Grouchy Goat. And basically, Brad wants to launch a mobile game, so he engages the 2 testers, Rachel and Dana, to come up with something with the help of Joe. And Poppy is pulled away from working on the expansion with Ian to speak at a luncheon for women in gaming.
I hated and loved this episode at the same time. I hated it because I found Rachel so grating and annoying.
Well, that's her character.
But yeah, they actually refer to her as the annoying
one. But that's the whole point. That's why I love it, because it shines a spotlight on that overly annoying freaking safe space, SJW, crazy, whatever that, you know, I have to use my platform to speak to the world about these issues.
And that was her whole thing with designing this game. We need, what's our message? And Dana was like, let's just keep it simple.
It's just a simple game.
Yeah. And she's like, no, it needs to say something. And then that is what ruins this game.
Exactly. And that's why I love this episode, because it's so poignant to what's happening in the world
and like
nowadays.
they go to like present it to Brad, and it's just so much. And Brad's like, you know what? No. Never mind. Kill it.
You failed.
Yeah. So Brad basically just wanted a quick cash grab mobile game.
Yeah.
And so he just hands it off to people that he doesn't care. And in fact, I think he was doing it just to torture them, because they were going around kind of championing their lesbian relationship. And so like he's like, and Dana really wants to kind of get out of testing and become like an actual like game designer. And so she's looking at this as a big opportunity. And he kind of pushes Joe off on them, and Joe's not happy about it because she can't stand the 2 lesbians. But Brad is like, trust me, it'll be a learning opportunity for you. And so like she goes along with them, and they create this game called Grouchy Goat. And Dana comes up with like the gameplay loop, which is basically like you're a grouchy goat and you're going around, you're eating like, you know, tin cans
and stuff.
Yeah. And then Rachel comes in and she's like, it's got to be about animal rights. It's got to be about like saving the environment and like all this other stuff. And so they get the game together and they present it to Brad, and Rachel doesn't even get through like her opening sentence, because like it's all about like global warming and all this other stuff. And Brad's like, you know what? No, forget it.
Yeah.
And puts the kibosh on that. And Joe basically
immediately jumps ship.
Immediately throws them under the bus, and that really impresses Brad, because he's like, oh, you
took all the credit.
He's
and
like,
then
you were
bailed.
on board, and then as soon as I said this sucks, you jumped ship and got back on mine. She's like, yes. And he's like, yes.
Yeah,
that's well done.
I'm proud of you.
So Vader, because
my least favorite episode of the season.
Least favorite episode?
Yeah.
I thought for sure that you'd appreciate the fact that they kind of pointed out how ridiculous this whole
I did.
platform stuff is.
At this point, when I was watching the series, I was just kind of, I think this was the first, we're in the first episode? Second episode. Yeah, I thought the first episode was kind of, and the second episode, I was really kind of, this thing needs to get better soon, or else I'm going to.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But,
well, Poppy,
it came around.
Poppy's storyline in this was really interesting, because she has to speak at this women in gaming thing.
Yeah.
And she uses it as an opportunity to kind of manipulate both Ian and David, and kind of showcasing her alphaness. And and you know, she shows up at this thing and she starts giving this speech, and it's just like crazy off the wall stuff. And because before she goes up there, Ian was like, I wrote you the speech.
Yep.
Just read it off the teleprompter. And you think that she goes completely off book and like she just acts crazy.
Well, she was like, oh, I've got to take this dress off. It's too tight. And oh my God, I just farted. It's the crab cakes. I swear to God. She goes way off.
Yeah, you think that she's unraveling, but it turns out that was actually Ian's speech that she was
word
doing
for word
verbatim. and it was so kind of off the wall and endearing that it got the entire crowd to kind of come around for her.
Yeah.
And at the end, Ian's going through like, no, I actually wrote all that. Like she did it verbatim. And then they realized that she was manipulating both of them, Ian and David. And they were like, wow, Poppy is
and that's another thing too. Like, they talk about how like inspiring people and emotionally manipulating people is the same thing. And Ian's always like, there's no difference.
Yeah.
It is the same thing. Like you can either emotionally manipulate people to get them to do what you want or inspire them. It's the same exact thing.
End result is the same.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It was a nice little commentary.
The only difference is whether or not you're evil.
Yeah. Did we get to meet the art department yet in this episode?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So
I wanted to talk about this poor bastard.
Oh God, those poor sweet men and women. I think
there's one or two in
yeah.
there. Yeah, it was so funny because like they get so used and abused where
That downtrodden group.
they have these like
But that's super realistic.
yeah, that's accurate as hell. I've talked to a handful of people. There's a Yoshivu who worked for Lucasfilm. He was one of the guys who worked on Rise of Skywalker, the CGI for the Death Star. And he's like,
just make it look like this.
He's like, dude,
it's super easy. Just
what are you doing?
Do
They're like,
we need to. You want us to draw Culk?
So you want us to do all of that on top of what we're already doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, make it happen, buddy.
It shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. And that main dude, the main art director guy that they're talking to with the beard, he is the guy I think who runs Drunk History, the Comedy Central TV show.
Yeah?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the same. I recognize his face. I binge watched a bunch of the Drunk History episodes, and I was like, hey, that's that freaking guy. I thought that was cool. I don't know why, but
They treat him so badly.
it's so terrible. And he always looks so like just broken when they tell him to do something.
Yeah.
He's just
And
like
everyone in the art department's brilliant. Like they'll just whip up these amazing concept art pieces based off of what people are telling them.
Can you just like draw like an aura?
What did
you
they?
can't draw aura. You mean like this?
Yes, that's exactly it. What did they describe the castle as? Like weather-worn, mossy castle or something like that.
Yeah.
And Poppy was like, what does that even mean? And he just holds up a picture and it's like this perfectly rendered like 3D castle.
He's like, yeah, exactly.
Like
Just
that.
like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Perfect.
See how easy that was?
So it's always the art department that's like this.
And for the Grouchy Goat game, like they stayed
up all night.
They stayed up all night and got the stuff because they needed it for the next day. And
he just throws it away. It's so terrible.
And throughout the season, like the art department just gets crapped on.
Yeah,
that's kind of the running joke.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. All right, what happens in the next episode?
All right, so the next episode is called #YumYum. And basically, Ian and Poppy decide to work separately on the expansion, which David takes as a early sign of divorce. And Joe helps CW deal with his publisher, who's demanding that he either deliver the third book in his trilogy, or he loses the rights to his characters. And Brad sets out to help David find a date or a romantic partner.
I feel like this was kind of a filler episode.
It kind of was.
Wasn't much happening as far as the main plot lines.
They tied it back in the latest episode with David.
I don't know, like the whole thing about like them working on the expansion separately, because basically Ian has his vision, Poppy has her vision.
Mm-hmm.
They decide to split up so that they can focus on their individual visions. And Poppy, like we kind of see her becoming like more like Ian in terms of like how she deals with her employees. And at the end, Ian basically, he kind of reaches out to Poppy to work together with her. And it turns out that like she kind of sold out to Brad to make a battle royale.
Yeah. Oh God.
Expansion.
That part really made me laugh because.
Go for it, man.
I'm struggling right now in the YouTube world because I'm trying to find some games that I enjoy playing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go out there and you look around, there's nothing out there that people like get good numbers for, unless it's one of these stupid ass battle royale games
like Fortnite or
Oh
something.
God, I hate them. They're just I'm awful at them. They're all the same exact game, just with different levels of graphics or
different characters,
different levels of cartoonishness.
Yeah,
and it's just not my kind of game. And they're everywhere.
It's cheap, easy.
And, it's like one company made one and did it good, and so every single gaming company out there has to make one now.
Yeah,
and it's just
so that commentary in the show
it's
really
very spot on.
It hit home for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just make a battle royale. Oh yeah, well, you know, so okay, I get it.
And the whole idea is to get like the 9 to 12-year-old demographic or whatever.
Like all the fans of the battle royale within Mythic Quest are like 4.
I was playing Fortnite a couple months ago, and I hadn't turned it on for a long time, and I had the settings wrong or something, and I got put in this group of people, and they were all like 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And they were all swearing at me like I was like sailors because I was just some stupid old man. And I just like, fuck you. And I left. I was like, I can't deal with this.
It's kind of like that scene in Endgame where Thor has to badmouth a 13-year-old.
It was the worst. And it's just like, I can't get into these new games. And I quit playing World of Warcraft. So I'm like I'm in this weird kind of gamer.
You know what I started doing, dude?
You started playing those stupid old text games.
No.
Yeah, I just can't figure it out. I don't know what I want to play.
I dusted off my old Xbox 360 and I started playing Skyrim again.
Oh yeah, that might be kind of.
That's a dope game.
What I have been doing, this is kind of not about the show, but what I have been doing is since I played World of Warcraft for like 16 years, I didn't play anything else. I missed an entire generation of games. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of gone back and I've started going through the Steam catalog of popular games that I didn't play, and I'm starting to pick those up. And like I played some Witcher last week. And, you know, stuff like that. So
yeah, one of the subplots that I liked in this episode was that Brad assigns Joe to help CW out with his publisher. Mm-hmm. And so,
I figured you'd like this part.
Yeah, that was funny.
And so like she goes into this publisher's office and she starts like throwing her weight around, acting all tough. And the publisher's like, CW's book was due in 1982.
Yeah, she's like, you're going to give us
a reasonable 6-month extension.
And he's like, it was due in the 80s. I could give you 6 months, but I don't think it's going to do anything.
Yeah. And then she basically kind of regroups and has a talk with CW, who regales her of all of his Thailand adventures with ladyboys back in like the 70s or something like that. And so like she basically has CW pitch why he should get an extension to the publisher, and CW is just like racist, sexist, like off the wall.
Well, no, because she said we're just going to let CW handle all of his like social media and his promotion and his interviews, and then as soon as he starts talking, they're like, never mind, we'll give you anything you want, just keep him from talking to people.
There's also a great gag. So like CW won like a Nebula Award, which is like a big prestigious science fiction.
Yeah, this keeps coming back throughout the series.
Yeah, like and people just pull the Nebula Award out of nowhere every time like they reference it. It's really funny because everyone's just like, where were you keeping that? Where did that come from?
Like she walked into this office and it's just her holding an iPad, and then like 10 minutes into the scene, she just pulls out from off camera. She's like, the Nebula, and he's like, where was that? It's so funny, and it keeps happening throughout the series. It's so funny.
Yeah, and one more thing is that Brad basically sets out to find a romantic partner for David in this episode, because David is super insecure that Ian and Poppy are going to get divorced because they're displaying all the...
And it's making David remember like his parents' divorce.
Yeah, and David is freshly divorced.
Yes, and it's sending him down a shame spiral.
Yeah, and so Brad, liking a challenge, decides to take it upon himself to help David find like a date. And he puts
because originally David went on like dating apps, and his profiles were just like so terrible,
so cringy,
and they were like watching.
He was trying to sell that pedal bike. He's like, I just got this for $500 off the sticker price.
He's got his own wedding photos on his like Tinder account, but
he cropped out his wife. He
cropped out his wife, and Brad's like, I'm taking over.
Yeah, and so Brad makes him play this Japanese dating sim in order to prepare him for like how to deal with like actual women. And this is like an actual game. Like there are these Japanese dating simulations.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of want to play one.
Yeah. And Brad just like fails at or I should say David fails at the misery.
Yeah. He's like the opening chat, he's like, can I buy you a drink? And the sim woman is like, well, can I buy you a drink? And he's like, you know what? I like a woman in charge. I'll take this with low fat this and this and this. And then he's like, you know what? I gotta go.
Yeah.
It's just like cuts him off.
And then it's revealed that behind the scenes they have Sue, Carol, and Tall Paul playing like the women that David was interacting with.
Yeah.
And Carol from HR thought that this was like a
sexual harassment.
A sexual harassment
seminar or something.
Seminar or something.
Training
exercise.
Like how to not sexually harass.
and she was the one who just went up to David and was like, "Want to fuck?"
Yeah.
And David was like, "Yeah."
Speaking of the HR lady, what was her name again? Carol.
Carol.
I think we talked about this in a past episode already. I'm not sure if it happened yet. But when she's in the parking garage and the two tester girls get together.
That was Titan's Rift episode.
Titan's Rift episode where she's like, nobody cares if you're dating. Just don't fuck in the office. She just drives away.
Yeah, it's funny because like both Rachel and Dana are like, they're acting weird because they want to like tell everyone about their relationship.
Yeah, like nobody cares.
Yeah. It's like, we're in a lesbian relationship. Everyone's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So what? All right. So what happens? Is this episode 4?
Yes. So episode 4 is called Breaking Brad. And in this episode, Brad attempts to convince the development team that his brother, Zach, who is there for his birthday, is not the nice guy that he's pretending to be.
This episode hurt because seeing Brad as an actual human made me feel. And I don't like to. I don't like to feel.
Broke that I don't know, the barrier down for him. Like, he's always been this cutthroat, cold-hearted dude. But then when his brother shows up and you realize
there's a reason he's like that.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, his brother's way
gives
worse.
him more layers to his character.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because Brad's brother, Zach, like the entire episode, you're thinking like, oh, Brad just is mischaracterizing him because he seems like this great guy. And it turns out that Zach is actually more evil than Brad makes him out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so like in this episode, we kind of get to see Joe start getting a peek behind Brad's facade, that Brad actually does care about the people in the office, even though he pretends not to. And but during all this, also for the battle royale that Poppy put in the game, Montreal, the business behind the corporation behind
Mythic Quest,
rewards her with a Ferrari, with a
Porsche
that she can't drive because she doesn't know how to drive stick. and so Ian has Rachel drive him out to pick up this car.
Oh, this was a great scene.
Yeah. And it turns out that Ian, for all of his bluster, can't drive stick either. And so Rachel has to be the one to drive the car because she actually knows how to drive stick. And this depresses Ian. So like, he's just sitting in the passenger seat as they're driving. And all Joe talks about is how women can't get ahead in the game. Yeah, Rachel. All Rachel talks about is how women can't get ahead in the gaming industry and how it's a patriarchy and how, she's disadvantaged because she's a woman. Mm-hmm. And but like this episode had such a great moment where basically Ian turns to her and says, you know what? I'm a straight white male and that's helped me in my career. But you know what actually like got me to where I am? Like when I was a teenager and I was like a tester at this one company, for 5 minutes, I was in an elevator with like the guy who ran the company. And in that 5 minutes, I pitched him 15 different ideas and he didn't like any of them, but he remembered my name because I took the initiative. And so when I did have my one good idea, he was able to give me that opportunity to break me through. And she's like, well, I don't have that opportunity. He's like, I'm literally the head of the company.
He's like, I'm sitting right here next to you.
This is your moment.
This is your moment. Take advantage of it.
And she's like,
And she starts driving like 2 miles an hour because she can't think of anything to pitch.
And he's like, what did he say to her? He's like, it was such a great commentary. And he's like, this is what it's like to work with women. None of you people know what you want.
Yeah.
It was so funny and so poignant and just like on point. And it was such a great commentary on people who want to like, he's like, you know what? If you actually took a minute to get your shit together instead of constantly complaining about the straight white male causing all your problems, you'd probably be ahead of the game. Yeah. And it was like, I don't know. We've been saying this for how many years now? It feels like everybody needs to be watching this show just to get that point across. It was such a great point that they made.
It was such a poignant moment for me too. Cause like when he gets out of the car and he's like, and she's like, wait, no. And he's like, okay, pitch me. I'm right here. Tell me what it is. And Rachel can't think of anything. And Ian just walks away and he's like, this is why like I don't like helping women because you don't know what you want. And it was such a true to life thing where, people are looking to blame their shortcomings on other people as opposed to actually doing what it takes to succeed in life. And it was such a great commentary on that.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, we're making fun of it, like the whole being a woman, being a lesbian woman and versus a straight woman.
I thought it was funny too.
It was very funny, but it could be applied to anybody.
Yep.
That lesson can be applied to a person, a dude who's just indecisive and doesn't know what they want to do.
Or an old person dealing with a young person.
Yeah. Same thing. It's a great life lesson. I think the show did a really good job.
And this was also the episode that we got the Snoop Dogg cameo.
I didn't care about that.
Well,
it was funny, but I was like, okay, whatever.
Well, it's kind of funny because Zach brings in Snoop Dogg, and he does a live concert in the game, much like how Fortnite did that with like Marshmello and Drake and stuff like that. So Snoop Dogg has this live concert within Mythic Quest, and he's got like the like the bodysuit with like the
mocap sign,
yeah. And as soon as he leaves, like they're like, we're gonna have to air out the studio. The whole place
smells like weed. That was pretty funny.
But then we get Brad's final confrontation with Zach, where basically he's like, "Don't mess this up for me," and Zach's like, "Oh, you've gone soft. I'm going to mess this up for you because this is what I do."
Yeah. What exactly was Zach's leverage against him? Like So the whole premise is like now that Mythic Quest has this battle royale, it's kind of basically sold out to the new version of gaming. Like he smells blood in the water, and Zach's going to come in and like undercut the company. What was the game plan for him?
I didn't quite pick up that either.
So he's like a corporate raider.
Okay,
that's kind of what Zach does, where he comes into a company that has valuable assets, then he strips them off and sells them piecemeal, and pockets like a percentage of what he's able to get from the company, and then leaves, and the company's just like dead. It's kind of like what Richard Gere's character in Pretty Woman did.
Okay.
So like he'd basically come in, he'd take over a company, he'd sell off all their assets, and then basically pocket the money and leave the company as the show.
How would he put himself in the situation where he was able to do that though? Like he would just kind of like schmooze his way up the ladder.
Yeah, so he ingratiates himself into a position where he's able to do that.
Okay.
And then he just
takes over from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Joe, who's Brad's assistant, witnesses all this, and she realized that maybe Brad isn't as powerful or as strong as she first thought she was, because his brother Zach is the real shark.
Yeah. And she starts like making fun of him. The next episode is the one with the characters, right? Okay. All right, go ahead. Yeah. What happens in episode 5?
I think this episode is my favorite of this season.
The animal.
I do too.
Yeah. The sign the HR papers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So episode 5, which is the final episode we're going to be reviewing for this because it's the last one that came out. I think there are probably like 5 more episodes.
I think it's
yet to be released.
9 or 10 episodes per season.
Yeah.
There's
3 more episodes. Okay. So
4. I'm sorry. 4 or 5.
Make up your mind.
We'll figure it out.
This is why I don't deal with men. You never know what you want.
Can't Google. All right. So episode 5 is called Please Sign Here. And in this episode, Carol from HR tries to wrangle the Mythic Quest employees that refuse to sign the results of a simple workplace assessment to get them to sign so she can go home.
That's it. That's the episode.
And
nobody wants to sign it.
It's like, well, I don't think that this piece of paper really exemplifies my real personality.
So basically they had to take this test, and however they scored on the test, there's like this pie chart, and you are assigned an animal with your personality like characteristics. And every single one of them is like, I disagree. I'm not a this. I'm not a baboon. I'm not an otter.
Except for David.
And David is stoked because it turns out he's a wolf.
And he shows up.
It turns out later in the episode that he answered everything the opposite, because it was like one is strongly agree, 5 is strongly disagree. And he's like, oh, you got that backwards. And she's like, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
And then when they look at the pie chart where wolf is, Brad goes, so you're supposed to be the opposite of wolf.
Butterfly.
You're a butterfly. and David's like, I'll sign it. No. I'm not a butterfly. I'm a wolf. I'll sign the wolf paper.
That was my favorite moment in this episode, is how attached David got to that persona that the test told him. He comes in with like a leather jacket. His hair's all spiky.
Yeah,
he's like
the chain wallet.
He's got a chain wallet.
My favorite moment in this episode is when you realize that David's been sitting there the whole time, but like he's so laid back, like what is it? Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah.
He's like sitting in the window like James Dean, and
like a lollipop.
He's apparently been there the whole time. And they're like, well, if you like your character so much, why didn't you sign the papers? And he's like, because wolves don't
do what they're told.
Yeah.
They kind of pave their own path. It was freaking hilarious.
So funny.
I got a kick out of this episode because my old boss, when I first came to Las Vegas, he made all of us take a test.
Similar to that?
Similar to that.
Nice.
Except it wasn't animals, it was colors.
Okay.
It's like red is your dominant
You're a
personality.
puce.
And it was just brutal. Because we went through this whole thing. It's like, I'm not a red, I'm a blue.
Yeah.
Or I'm more of a purple, you know, and it's just like, and he ended up actually assigning people shifts.
Based off of that test?
Based off the parts of this test. It's like, well, I don't want too many reds on one shift, and I don't want too many whites on one shift. I got to mix them all up together and everything. And it was bullshit. It was awful. And it was just like, if we had known what he was going to do with this, we probably would have all cheated, because it was crazy. And these things are real. That's what I'm trying to say. That these personality types are, and they're bullshit. It's just all HR mumbo jumbo. It's nonsense. I hate it.
And Ian was identified as a lion, which he really liked, but he was refusing to sign because Poppy hadn't taken the test, because she got like a special dispensation from Montreal because she was busy working on the expansion. Mm-hmm. And so like, you know, he's like, you want me to sign? Get Poppy in here. But then like Mr. CW Longbottom, they built like a fake body for him.
Oh my God.
They give him a mannequin and they dress the mannequin up like CW.
Put the iPad on the neck and it was just his head. And they pushed him around the office.
Yeah, and I think Sue, she was like,
Sue from the basement, who's never allowed out of the basement. Yeah. They give her a key card that doesn't work, that's supposed to let you like come up and down in the elevator, but they make her key card not work because she's too happy.
Yeah, she's the community
really
manager.
Annoys everyone.
She's so sweet.
You know what I noticed about this episode that I thought was kind of funny was the quicker the person signed the papers and left and were out of the episode was about the same amount of screen time that their characters actually get in the show.
So the more main characters had to, like Poppy and Ian were the last ones there.
It's like the lady downstairs,
Sue.
She was gone in like the first 5 minutes. And then,
well, she basically rolls CW's body away, and she's like, oh, it's like rolling around my sick father.
So messed up. It was a good episode. I had a lot of fun with it. There was a lot of good comedy to it.
It got really dark.
This episode?
It ended.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
with Poppy and Ian.
So basically, it comes down to.
Hold on. Right before that, so we get our first glimpse of relationship trouble between Rachel and Dana in this episode, because Dana.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, that's kind of the joke.
You're right. Like and. They make more jokes about Rachel being annoying in this episode. So yeah. Okay. Anyway.
So basically it comes down to Ian and Poppy, and Ian calls her in and says, hey, everybody's pissed that you haven't taken this test, only because Ian's the only one that's pissed that she didn't take it. So she comes in and she's like, oh my gosh, everyone's pissed at me. And everybody's like, no, we don't care. And Ian's like, no, you're one of the leaders and you should take this test. So she takes the test. Turns out she's a lion too. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, makes Ian go down a dark spiral, because
you can't have two lions leading the pride.
He wants to be the only lion. Yeah. And then finally, Carol has to mediate between them to get them to some kind of agreement.
Well, she forces Ian to actually like reveal what he's scared of, and he's eventually.
And he's so transparent.
Yeah, like he eventually says, I'm afraid that Mythic Quest is my one good idea, and that you're actually better than me, and I'm going to lose everything. And Poppy, as opposed to being genuine with him in return, is very flippant and kind of like throws it in his face. And Carol's like, oh, Poppy, that's not cool. And Ian basically kind of falls into like a weird depression over this. And once Carol kind of leaves after they both sign their stuff, because Ian's so depressed that he signs the form, Poppy actually ends up being vulnerable, and she's like, you know, I like that you actually believe in me, and that keeps me going and stuff like that. And Ian gets in her face and he's like, I've never believed in you.
And you will fail without me.
You will fail without me. And it ends on that note, and you're just like, whoa.
That's the mid-season finale. You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it got super dark.
That'll get you hooked.
Walks away.
Yeah, that'll get you hooked to watch the next episode.
It was a very downer of an ending, because like Ian's never been that cutthroat with Poppy before. Ian. Well, technically it is Ian. So, but anyway, he's never been that cutthroat with Poppy before, and the fact that he just leaves her with that.
Yeah.
it was heartbreaking, man.
Yeah.
Very different from what happened in quarantine.
I was like, oh God, please let this be another one of Poppy's dreams. And then it ended and I was like, no.
This is like
Mom and Dad.
This is the moment where I actually felt like David. And I'm like, no, please. Mom and Dad are fighting.
and they also revealed Poppy's sex dreams about Ian in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out Ian knew all along that she was having sex dreams about him. And then he tries to file a complaint.
Sexual harassment
HR.
complaint. And David was stuck in the elevator
the whole time. Like, please let me out. And the door closes.
Yeah, he's like, I forgot my key card.
And it was the HR lady, and she's like, nope.
He keeps trying to do this like wolf out.
Oh.
And then the elevator doesn't arrive, and he's like, just waiting for the elevator. And then finally it opens. He's like, wolf out. Ow! And he gets on the elevator where he doesn't have his key card, and he ends up locked in the basement.
And then he's like, guys, I've been howling for help for hours. And you can hear when the door closes, you can hear him go, oh. It's so
Poor
good.
David just gets shit on.
This show does not drop any balls.
No, man, it's awesome. I have a blast with this show.
It's really fun.
It's taken the place, like something that I used to watch all the time, reruns, and I used to love it, like Parks and Recreation or The Office or something along those lines. This show has kind of taken the place of those ones. It's a little bit more heavy-handed. It's not as light and fluffy like those ones. It has some serious moments to it, but it's so freaking funny and so rewatchable that this is kind of like, I'm glad I'm watching it as it's coming out, because I wasn't able to do that with The Office or with Parks and Rec. I watched those things on Netflix long after they were already done. So like watching this as it's going, I'm kind of like along for the ride. It's a ton of fun. I'm having a blast with this show.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's on Apple TV, and I don't think anyone's really watching it.
It deserves.
Apple, if people do want to watch it, Apple TV is super cheap right now.
Yeah, it's like $5, right?
It's like $4.99 a month.
Yeah, even if you just did the free trial,
Yeah.
they're only 20-minute episodes.
Yeah.
Well, if you have an Apple device, I think you get like a year for free.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
A new Apple device.
Yeah.
Not that old shit.
Not that
When
old.
I hope that this show does get more attention because it's just so good. It's so smartly written. It's so well acted.
I feel like it's kind of lost and floundering out there in Apple TV. It deserves a bigger audience.
For sure. Like. I mean, if Apple TV, when it's done, or maybe if Apple wants to like sell off seasons at a time to like Netflix or something, I think it'll gain a lot more traction. But
also there was a lot of time in between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
There was like a year.
That was COVID. I mean, I think that
because we did season 1 last year,
right
before we got video and all that stuff. But anyway, all right. So final thoughts on this half of the season. Vader, what do you think, man? Are you on? You're still on board?
I'm enjoying this season. It's good. It's fun.
You don't seem like you're as in love with it as we are.
You guys are always so
animated
and chatty about these episodes and stuff. And I'll just sit
so
here.
Good at our job.
It's literally your job, dude.
I don't have any. You're not paying me anything.
Like and subscribe. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers, guys. Jude, how about you? What do you think about this first
I
half?
just love this show so much, and I can't wait for the next episode.
Right on. Kadish, you're on board?
Oh, totally. Like every single character in this show is freaking phenomenal. Even annoying Rachel. Like I love all of them. And the scenarios that they keep coming up with are just, it really does remind me a lot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like if you like that type of comedy, like this show is very much along those lines. But like in a more mainstream way, I think.
Yeah, I feel like Always Sunny gets to the point of ridiculousness, whereas this show stays a bit more grounded.
Yeah.
And I also like the fact that it's in the video game world. And like if you follow that at all, like it's very timely, where it takes these video game things like monetization and
loot boxes and all that nonsense.
Yeah, and it kind of incorporates them into the episode in a funny way. So I really love this show. It's probably my favorite comedy on TV right now, and I really wish it was getting more attention.
Yeah, I genuinely like the social commentary that it brings to the forefront while having a sense of humor. It's something that's lacking in a lot of TV nowadays.
Didn't they do like a callback joke to the Nazi episode where David was like doing like a breakdown? It came down to Nazis again.
They did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it Nazi something? It was like a tournament. He set up like because he's a numbers guy. He's all about.
He set up like a tier.
Yeah, a tier thing. What can we name? Oh, it was the title. The title for the expansion. It was like Nazi Ocean or something. Like that doesn't even make sense. God, this show's so funny. All right, guys, that's it. That's our commentary on Mythic Quest Season 2, Episodes 1 through 5. We'll probably polish off the second half of the season in a couple of weeks once we're done with the show. And
Yeah,
we'll
probably in July sometime.
Yeah, July sometime. We'll polish off the second half. So join us, like, subscribe, comment below. If you watch the show, if you're hesitant about getting Apple TV, if you think it's worth it or not, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to give us that thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm. Before we get out of here, Matt Vader, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me at Matt Vader 74 on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Did you pick a game that you haven't played before?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm going through things.
Keep us posted.
Oh,
I'm very curious. My son asks me every day, is Matt playing video games right now?
Oh, gosh. That's crazy.
He loves watching you, dude. It's weird. Jude, where can they find you at?
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Perfect. And Matthew Kadish?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter, and kadishbooks.com takes you to my Amazon page.
And I'm your host, Salty Nerd. If you guys would like to support the podcast, go to saltynerdclub.com, join our Patreon, help us to gain our 100 Patreons. We would love to have you there. You get exclusive access to a lot of cool stuff, and it really, really helps us out here to make awesome content for everybody. All right, guys, thanks for joining us, and tune in next week. Stay salty, my friends.